I never thought the deepest wound of my life would come from the very boy I raised with my own two hands. You see, betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people who share your name, your blood, your home. And in my case, it came from my only son. He didn't just take money. He didn't just disrespect me. He sold the one thing that meant more to me than anything else I had left in this world. My beach house. The house where my wife and I built our happiest memories. The house where my son took his first steps on the warm wood floors. The house where we spent decades of summers, Christmases, birthdays. Every joy and sorrow tied to that little piece of land by the ocean. And he sold it, behind my back. I wasn't born rich. Everything I have, I earned. I was a carpenter by trade, and a stubborn one at that. My father was a fisherman, my mother a school teacher, and they raised me to work until my hands blistered and my bones ached. Back in my 30s, when my wife and I scraped together enough to buy a small plot of land near the coast, people laughed at us. "Why waste money on sand and salt water?" they said. But I saw something in that piece of land. It wasn't just property, it was a future. For months, every evening after long shifts at the workshop, I carried lumber, hammered beams, and laid bricks with my own sweat. My wife would bring lemonade, her hair catching the sunset glow, and together we'd dream about how our boy would grow up here, barefoot, sunburnt, with salt in his hair and laughter in his voice. That house was never just a house. It was love nailed into wood, memories poured into cement, and hope sealed in glass. And my son knew that. My son, let's call him David, grew up never knowing hunger, never knowing cold, never knowing the kind of backbreaking labor I endured. And I didn't mind. That's what fathers do. We suffer so our children don't have to. He had birthday parties on that beach, sleepovers with friends. Even his first heartbreak played out on that porch, with my wife comforting him while I pretended not to overhear. I gave him everything I could, paid for his schooling, helped him through college. I even sold part of my land once to cover his tuition when he switched majors 3 times. And at first I thought he was just young, finding his way. But as David got older, I began to see he wasn't just lost. He was entitled. When he landed his first corporate job, he came home with shiny shoes, pressed suits, and an ego big enough to fill the entire living room. "Dad," he said one night, swirling his wine glass, "you really should sell this old place. You could get a fortune for it. Move into a condo, something modern. You'd finally live in comfort." I laughed, thinking it was just banter. "Son, this house is comfort. Every beam, every nail, every view of the ocean tide, it's worth more than any skyscraper condo." He scoffed, like I was some silly old man clinging to childish dreams. It didn't stop there. Whenever he visited, he'd make comments. "The place is falling apart, Dad. You don't have the energy to keep it up. You should think about your retirement, cash out while you can. Why hold on to memories? You can't live in the past forever." Each time I brushed it off. But deep down, his words cut. Not because he suggested selling, but because he dismissed what this house meant. To him, it was just wood and land. To me, it was life itself. My wife passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. That house became my anchor, my sanctuary. The place where I could still feel her presence in the creak of the stairs and the smell of the kitchen. Living alone there wasn't easy. My knees ached more each winter. My hands, once steady, now trembled when I held a hammer. Neighbors would sometimes check in, offering to mow the lawn or patch a leak. David rarely came. When he did, it felt like an obligation, not love. He'd sit, half on his phone, half listening, nodding along while texting coworkers. But I told myself, he's busy. He's building a life. That's what I raised him for. I never expected gratitude. Just respect. It started small. One evening, David came by with a folder in hand. He smiled too wide, too rehearsed. "Dad, I need you to sign some papers. Just routine stuff. Helps me manage some of your bills, make things easier for you." I hesitated. "What kind of papers?" "Oh, just power of attorney," he said casually. So if anything happens, I can handle your medical stuff, bank accounts, that sort of thing. Trust me, it's for your own good. I wanted to believe him. He was my son, blood of my blood. And at my age, maybe it wasn't a bad idea to have some backup. So I signed. Looking back, that was the moment the knife entered my back. I just didn't feel the twist yet. Weeks passed. I noticed strange things. Letters addressed to me went missing. A couple of my utility bills were suddenly redirected. Then, one afternoon, a man in a suit knocked on my door. "Good afternoon, sir. I'm here to take some photos of the property." "For what?" I asked. He looked confused. "The listing. Your son said you approved." My heart dropped. "Listing? What listing?" I told him there must be a mistake. He apologized and left, but unease crawled into my chest. That night I called David. "Son, what's going on? Someone came by about a listing?" He laughed it off. "Relax, Dad. Just exploring options. No harm done." But there was harm. I just didn't realize how deep it went. It happened on a Thursday. I came back from the market, arms full of groceries, only to find a car I didn't recognize parked in my driveway. A couple stood outside, pointing at the windows, smiling, like tourists admiring a landmark. I walked up. "Can I help you?" The woman extended a hand politely. "Oh, you must be Mr. Anderson. We're the new owners. Your son told us you'd already moved out." The bag slipped from my arms. Apples rolled across the gravel. My breath caught in my throat. What did you just say?" "The house," the man said. "We closed on it last week. Your son handled everything. Congratulations on the sale." My ears rang. My vision blurred. I felt the ground tilt under me. My son, my own flesh and blood, had sold my house, my heart, my soul, without even telling me. And in that moment, something inside me shattered. That night, I sat in the empty kitchen of the beach house, surrounded by bags of spilled groceries, staring at the floor. My hands trembled so badly I couldn't even hold a glass of water without spilling it. The couple's words echoed in my head like cruel whispers. "We're the new owners. Your son told us you'd moved out." Moved out? My heart clenched. My son hadn't just stolen the house. He had erased me from it. To him, I was already gone. I walked through each room, touching the walls, the furniture, the photographs. My wife's smile stared back at me from the frame above the fireplace. The rocking chair where she used to knit sat still in the corner. For the first time, it didn't feel like home. It felt like a museum of everything I was about to lose, and I cried. Not quiet tears, but the raw, ugly sobs of a man watching his entire life slip away. The next morning, I called David. He answered, cheerful. "Hey, Dad, what's up?" "What's up?" My voice cracked. "What's up is that strangers just told me they bought my house. My house, David. What did you do?" Silence, then a dismissive sigh. "Oh, that. Dad, calm down. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" My chest tightened. "You sold my home behind my back. How could you?" "You're being dramatic," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "That place was falling apart. I got a great deal. You'll thank me later when you were in a nice apartment with no repairs to worry about." My blood boiled. "You had no right. This house isn't yours to sell." "It is now," he snapped. "You signed the paperwork, remember? Power of attorney. You gave me the right to handle things, and I handled it." My stomach dropped. The papers. The ones I signed, trusting him. My own signature had become the weapon he used to stab me in the back. "Dad," David continued, his tone shifting to mock sympathy. "You're old. You don't need the stress of maintaining a house like that. I did you a favor. One day, you'll understand." I gripped the phone until my knuckles turned white. "A favor? Selling the last piece of your mother's memory? Stealing the home I built with my own hands?" "Memories don't pay bills," he snapped. "Stop being sentimental. It's just a house. Just a house." The words sliced deeper than any knife. To him, it was just wood and stone. To me, it was my heart. Word spread fast. Neighbors whispered when I walked past. Old friends called, awkwardly offering condolences, their voices thick with pity. I overheard one man at the market mutter, "Poor guy." His own son tricked him. Must be losing his mind. Even my brother called from across the state. Why'd you let David do that? You always were too soft on him. The shame burned hotter than the betrayal. Not only had my son robbed me, he had made me look like a fool in front of the entire community. An old man too weak, too naive to protect his own home. That week, I barely slept. I sat on the porch, staring at the ocean, the sound of the waves now mocking instead of soothing. My body felt heavy, my mind foggy. One night I whispered to my late wife's photograph, maybe he's right, maybe I'm too old, maybe I should just let go. But then, I thought of her voice, the way she used to scold me when I doubted myself. Don't you dare give up, James. You've worked too hard to be stepped on. And something in me shifted. The breaking moment came when David visited a week later. He arrived in a brand new car, suit pressed, watch glinting in the sun. Well, Dad, he said smugly, the deal's done. I moved the money into an account for you. You'll be comfortable now. You should be thanking me. I looked at him, really looked at him. This wasn't the boy I raised. This was a man drunk on greed, blind to respect, deaf to family, and in that moment I realized forgiveness was off the table. I might have been old. My hands might have trembled, but I wasn't powerless. Not yet. That night, I dug through my filing cabinet. Old deeds, mortgage papers, tax receipts, insurance documents, decades of records neatly tucked away. My wife had always insisted we keep everything in order. And there it was, the original deed. My name. Only my name. The lawyer David had pushed me to see, the one who filed the power of attorney, hadn't updated everything. Some parts of the property still legally tied back to me, untouched, unaltered. A spark ignited in my chest. If David wanted to play games with paperwork, then fine. I'd play too. The next morning I called an old friend, Mr. Harper, a lawyer I'd known since my carpentry days. Years ago, I had built his kitchen cabinets for half the price when he was struggling. James, he said, surprised to hear my voice. It's been years. What can I do for you? I swallowed hard. I need help, legal help. My son, he sold my house behind my back. Silence. Then Harper's voice hardened. Tell me everything. So I did. Every detail from the power of attorney to the strangers at my door. When I finished, Harper let out a low whistle. That boy of yours may think he's clever, but he's sloppy. Let me dig into this. I can't promise anything, but I'll be damned if I let him get away with this without a fight. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered inside me. That night I stood by the ocean, the cool wind whipping against my face. The waves crashed, relentless, unyielding. And I thought, that's what I need to be, relentless, unyielding. David thought I was weak, that I'd roll over, accept his betrayal, fade into the background like some senile old man. But he had forgotten one thing. I was the man who built this house from nothing but wood, sweat, and grit. And I was about to remind him what that man was still capable of. Mr. Harper invited me into his office a few days later. His desk was stacked with folders, old files, and coffee-stained legal pads. He adjusted his glasses, leaned back, and said, James, I've been going through the paperwork, and I'll tell you something right now. Your son underestimated you. I leaned forward, heart racing. What do you mean? He tapped the original deed. The land and the structure are technically two separate assets. The house itself? You gave him authority through the power of attorney. But the land it sits on? That's a different matter. It's still in your name, untouched. He may have signed away the building, but the foundation it rests on still belongs to you. I blinked. So what does that mean? Harper smiled thinly. It means anyone who bought the house without also buying the land bought a very expensive shack they have no legal right to keep standing. A surge of adrenaline shot through me. My son had been sloppy, arrogant. And now that arrogance was going to cost him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced the floor, hands clenched behind my back. For weeks I had felt powerless. But now I had leverage. Still, doubt crept in. What if this backfires? What if the law sides with him? What if I lose everything for good? Then I looked at the framed photograph of my wife, her smile, her steady gaze. I whispered, "For you, for us, I won't let him destroy what we built." And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt strong again. The following weekend, David invited me to lunch, a flashy new restaurant downtown, all glass walls and overpriced plates. He showed up in a crisp navy suit, flashing his gold watch. "Dad, good to see you. How's the new place?" I stared at him. "I'm still at the beach house." His smile faltered. "Oh, well, not for long. The buyers are moving in soon." He leaned back, smirking. "You should be proud. I negotiated a hell of a deal. You're set for life now." I studied him carefully, the gleam in his eye, the way he talked like he was the genius behind it all. He had no idea the ground was about to shift beneath his feet. "You always were ambitious," I said quietly. "Sometimes too ambitious." He laughed. "Better ambitious than stuck in the past." Over the next week, Harper and I met almost daily. He poured through contracts, zoning regulations, property lines. Every detail mattered. "Here's the beauty," Harper explained one night, pointing at a map of the property. "Your son sold them the structure, but not the legal easement to access it. Technically, they have no driveway, no utility rights, no water or sewage connections without your approval. They can't live there without negotiating with you, and any judge will back you up." I sat back, stunned. My son had sold people a dream home that was basically useless. "And when the buyers find out," Harper continued, "they'll go after him for fraud, not you, him." I almost felt sorry for David. Almost. We decided to let things play out quietly. No dramatic confrontation yet. The goal was simple: wait until the buyers pushed back, then strike. Meanwhile, I kept my head down. I didn't tell neighbors. I didn't tell family. I played the part of the beaten old man. Let David think he'd won. Every time he called, bragging about how he'd saved me from a burden, I bit my tongue. Every mocking word he spoke only fueled the fire inside me. Because the more he gloated, the sweeter his downfall would be. But it wasn't easy. Some nights I sat on the porch, staring at the horizon, questioning myself. Revenge wasn't who I was. I had always been a builder, not a destroyer, a father, not an enemy. Yet the wound was too deep. It wasn't about the house anymore. It was about dignity, respect, about teaching my son, my own blood, that actions have consequences. I clenched my fist. He took my peace. I'll take his pride. One afternoon, I went into town to pick up groceries. To my surprise, I found David at the local cafe, surrounded by friends and colleagues, laughing loudly. And the best part, I overheard him boasting, "The old man thinks I did him a favor. He doesn't have to lift a finger anymore. I turned a rotting shack into a gold mine. Smartest move I ever made." They all laughed with him. I felt the sting of humiliation all over again, but this time it was laced with anticipation. Let him laugh. Let him bask in his false victory. Because when the truth came crashing down, the fall would be spectacular. Days turned into weeks. Then, one evening, Harper called. "It's happening," he said. "The buyers have realized the issue. They're furious. They've already filed a claim. Your son's about to have the fight of his life." I sat silently, listening to the waves outside. The moment was coming. Harper added, "Be ready, James. When this breaks, we'll need you to stand firm. This is your chance to reclaim everything." I nodded slowly. "I've been ready since the day he betrayed me." That night, I walked the shoreline. The moonlight danced across the water, the waves rushing in and out. I thought of my wife, my younger days, the years I spent building that home board by board. I whispered into the salty air, "Tomorrow, we take it back." For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Because tomorrow wasn't just another day. Tomorrow was the beginning of my son's reckoning. It started with a phone call. I was sipping my morning coffee when the phone rang. Harper's voice was sharp. "James, it's happening. The buyers are demanding answers. They've called for a meeting. Be there." My heart pounded as I hung up. This was it, the storm I'd been waiting for. When I arrived at Harper's office later that day, the scene was already set. David sat at the polished oak table, smug as ever, tapping on his phone. Across from him sat the new buyers, their faces red with frustration. Harper shuffled papers calmly, his sharp eyes glinting behind his glasses. The room buzzed with tension. The woman slammed a folder onto the table. "You told us this was a clean sale, but guess what? The land isn't even yours. We paid hundreds of thousands for a house we can't legally live in. Do you have any idea the mess you've caused?" Her husband chimed in, fists clenched. "We trusted you. You lied." David's face paled, but he forced a laugh. "There must be a mistake. My father gave me full authority." "Authority over the house," Harper interrupted smoothly. "Not the land. And in this state, the two are inseparable. You can't sell a home without selling the ground beneath it. Which, by the way," he turned to me, "still belongs entirely to Mr. Anderson." All eyes shifted to me. My chest swelled, my hands steady for the first time in months. "That's right," I said quietly but firmly. "The land is mine. Always has been. Always will be." David laughed nervously. "Dad, come on, let's not play games here. You signed everything over." I cut him off. "No, David, you tricked me into signing what you thought gave you control. But you didn't even understand what you were signing. You sold strangers a house sitting on land you don't own. You didn't just betray me, you committed fraud." The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, like a fish gasping for air. The buyers leaned forward, glaring daggers at him. "So we've been scammed. By you." Harper slid a thick document across the table toward David. "Here's what's going to happen. This contract is void. The buyers will be compensated. And you, Mr. Anderson, Jr., will be liable for damages, court fees, and potentially fraud charges if they decide to pursue it." David's jaw clenched. "This is ridiculous." "No, son," I said, my voice steel. "What is ridiculous is thinking you could cheat your own father and get away with it." David exploded, slamming his fist on the table. "I did this for you. You're too old, too stubborn to see it, but I saved you from rotting away in that dump." The buyers recoiled. Harper frowned. I leaned across the table, eyes locked on his. My voice dropped low, steady, cutting through his rage like a knife. "You didn't do this for me. You did it for yourself, for your greed, for your pride. That house was never a dump. It was our home, the only place that ever meant something real. And you threw it away." David's face twisted, torn between anger and fear. For the first time, he had no comeback. The buyers stood. "We'll see you in court," the husband snapped at David. Then, to me, "Mr. Anderson, we're sorry you had to go through this. We'll be contacting our attorney." They left, slamming the door. The room fell silent. David sat slumped, staring at the table, his confidence, his arrogance, all gone. In its place sat a broken, humiliated man. "Dad," he whispered, "please." But I shook my head. "No, David, you made your choice, and now you'll live with the consequences." Weeks later, the case was resolved. The sale nullified. The buyers were reimbursed through legal channels. David was left with crushing legal fees, a tarnished reputation, and the icy wrath of people he had scammed. And me? I walked back into my beach house as its rightful owner. The air smelled like salt and memories. The walls seemed to sigh with relief. I touched the old wooden banister and whispered, "We're home again." Revenge wasn't about destroying my son. It was about reclaiming what he tried to take from me. My dignity, my respect, my home. He thought I was weak. He thought I was powerless. But he forgot. I built this house from nothing. And I rebuilt my life the same way. Sometimes, justice isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the sound of waves against the shore, washing away the footprints of betrayal. So if you've ever been underestimated, betrayed, or treated like your worth was less than the ground you stood on, remember this. Patience, resilience, and truth are the sharpest weapons you'll ever need. And never forget, Even the weakest old man can rise like a storm when his soul, his love, and his legacy are on the line. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments what it's the most shocking betrayal you've ever witnessed inside a family. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of betrayal, justice, and sweet, sweet revenge. Until next time, stay strong, stay sharp, and never underestimate the power of patience. Thanks for watching.